We're going to go back in time with an extra issue in 1974. I did the November, December issue. They did a few times. They did what they call an annual issue, and so that's what this is. This was a 1974, their fishing annual, and I kind of one of the few men that never moved to casting rods and reels was Big Tom Mann from Eufaula, Alabama. And I did get to draw him at a tournament one time. And he was one of my favorite anglers, and we didn't really know each other. I just liked who he was. I liked what he created in the Mann's lure company, and eventually he started the Humminbird depth finders. But he also was one of the few that never switched over to casting reels. He was always using, which now is making a comeback due to forward facing, an open face spinning reel. And he was good with it. This is really a neat article, and I know this is kind of subjective, but it's basically 20 sure ways to lose a big bass. And I developed my own system, and because you couldn't afford to lose big fish. I mean, big fish were what it was all about, even back when it was a 10-fish limit, you wanted one or two, and you didn't mind losing a 2-pounder or something like that, because you could erase that mistake by catching a bunch of 2-pounders. But if you lost a 6-pounder, it was hard in a day's fishing in your mind to go, I've got to erase that mistake. Somehow. And it's not very often. That means you have to catch all 6-pounders to erase that one you lost. And that doesn't happen very often. So over time, I developed a system of how not to lose quality fish. And it was basically I'm not going to go into it in a lot of detail, but it had to do with your rod, your hook, what hook you used, what line you used, what kind of hook set you used under certain circumstances, and the number one most important thing was how you fought the fish. And each one of those had a few other steps into fighting a fish, making eye contact, see where the hook's at, determines if you're going to swing him, or back then if you were going to have him net it. And and that's why when I really got good at knot, I was proud that I probably maybe lost 1 or 2 4-pound plus fish a year in a year. Now, and I was proud of that. And there's the only time I lose more than that is when some dang reason those things I just explained to you, those steps, that was a chain, and my chain became extremely strong. But if you change one thing in that, just even changing line from mono to, let's say, fluorocarbon, you've changed that strength of that chain. And the old saying goes, the weak link in the chain, and you did that. So, a lot of people we have weak links in that chain, and we have to discover what they are and then change them appropriately until we become very, very efficient. So this is an incredibly important step when it comes to hooking and landing fish.
When are you going to give more details about what that chain is in a video eventually?
I might do some legacy schools or something.
Oh, okay.
So, but no, I want to be more thorough about it than trying to cover it at this point in time. So, or I might keep it for secret for a few more years.
That's rude.
Everybody has that, and the only question you ask yourself, are there any weak links in that chain? Okay. Any fisherman that fishes a lot develops it. And my chain may not work for you, and vice versa. So you have to develop one that works for you, because your rod's made to be different. Like I said, if you change, I use pretty much heavy action power rods. And if you don't, my chain won't work for you. So that's why it's a little more complex than me just telling you what mine is. I noticed in this particular issue, and this was the annual issue again, there was a lot of waiting going on. And a lot of articles, even in previous issues, about that. And, about fishing small bodies of water and wading or using inner tubes or fishing from the bank. And that was such a crucial part of my growth as an angler. And there's a lot of anglers that don't have boats. So don't give up if you don't have boats. Find places you can wade, or you can walk the bank at the right times of the year. That's the way I never came home to my mom without, here's my mom's instruction when I would come home. Okay, Rick, you're muddy, you're wet, take your pants off out there and then come in the house. So take your pants and shoes off, because I was always knee deep or waist deep in some body of water. And see, here's another guy here waiting. And this was in my part of the country at that time. This was Llano River, where we did most of our deer hunting, Pedernales, the Guadalupe, the Blanco. These are incredibly beautiful rivers, similar to the Ozark rivers. Different because they're drier around them, but the rivers were crystal clear, running over rock. You usually had to be trespassing to fish one of them. So again, that's one of the problems of a lot of waters, is they're not open to the public. And there's the beginning of the Rico right there. That was the original Popar. And that was one of the 2 or 3 colors that they made in it. And this was, again, 1974.
What is that, bone?
And that's a bone color. They made a bone, they made a frog and a baby bass. And they had, that's pretty much it. The only thing I question about that particular Popar, and it's a Rebel, and that's what they'd quit making them by the time I started fishing them. And I would travel the country and stop at every little tackle store I could, and they have 3 old ones there, or 5 old ones, or 1, and I'd buy every one of them. I know at one time, before Zell won that tournament, Super Bass tournament, that I own more than anybody in the whole country of those. And that's the only place that Zell and Randy Fight, my brothers, could get them. I'd give them 1 or 2. So, but eventually they didn't even have the molds for it. When they finally decided to bring it back, due to Zell's win, they had to make all new molds. So that's the end of 1974, and that's their annual issue.